And so we do interrupt the tale of the two shepherds to turn our attention to the starry heavens. Things were different a long time ago. There were fewer houses, there were fewer people. Almost none of the houses had a second story, so people who lived there had a much better view of the sky. And they didn't have electric lights, so at night the stars seemed very bright against the dark sky.
There were wise men, or magi, living in that time whose business was watching the sky for signs. People then believed that important events about to happen on earth were revealed or announced by the movement of heavenly objects. When the Magi saw something strange or remarkable in the sky, they reported it to the people.
And so it was that when God decided that a very special event was about to occur, he sent word throughout his heavens. A special star was needed, God said, to mark the birth of a child born with the light of love in his eyes and the knowledge of love in his heart. When the stars heard this, they became excited. The bright stars began shining up their coats, each one sure of being picked. The twinkling stars danced ever so gracefully, each one sure of being selected. And the huge red stars glowed and glowed, each one sure that he or she would be chosen.
Up in the north of heaven, the pole star heard the call for a special star. He was a bright and beautiful sentry, all spit and polish, the perfect star to serve as the messenger. But I know my duty, he thought, and he did a smart about-face, standing firm in his sentry spot, facing directly into the solar wind. A single tear ran down his face and froze there.
Now off in a corner of the heavens, a small dim star named Nautilus sat with his friends. His friends included an asteroid, a burned-out comet, and a white dwarf. Tali, his friends called Nautilus, was the kind of star you couldn't see by looking at him directly. But if you looked hard to the left or to the right, a faint light would appear, only to disappear the moment that you tried to look directly at Tali.
Now, Tali's friends were a churlish lot. The asteroid was a cold, lifeless piece of rock with a badly pockmarked face. The comet, well, he was burned out and was said to have a drinking problem. The white dwarf had once been quite a large, bright star, one of the brightest, in fact, and was more than a little grumpy because of his reduced state.
Now, Tali's little corner of the sky was just the right place for them because Tali himself was a small, dim star who didn't outshine his companions. And Tali was a very good singer. When the others first came to this place, Tali would sing sweetly for them. But lately, however, they had been singing together in four-part harmony, singing rather quietly off in a corner, entertaining themselves and bothering no one.
Back on Earth, the Magi noticed changes in the sky. The stars all seemed brighter, more twinkling, glowing with a deeper red. Something's up, they said to themselves, and they started paying closer attention than usual to the sky, even going so far as to place Tali on their charts, which they had never done before.
Now, when the four friends heard news of the big event, of the child being born with the light of love in his eyes, Tali stopped singing for a minute and said, "You know, if God is going to let the light of love shine in this child's eyes, he'll need some light. Now, if I took off my coat and gave it a good squeeze, we could get enough light to get the job done."
"You'd lose all of your light if you did that," cried the white dwarf, who knew how that felt.
"What need do I have for light?" Tali replied. "We can sing in the dark just as well."
"That's true," said the asteroid, who was very self-conscious about his face anyway.
And the comet, who had been quietly humming throughout all of this exchange, said, "I know how to fly through the heavens."
The asteroid said, "You could store that light in the large crater on my back. I promise not to spill a drop."
And the white dwarf, who was beginning to get excited now, said, I can lead the way and probably tip our friend the asteroid here to spill the light out at just the right time.
So Tali took off his coat, squeezed the light onto the asteroid's back, and it got very dark. On Earth, one of the Magi noted the sudden disappearance of this dim little star. He turned to his colleagues and said, "It is beginning."
The four friends set out for Earth and the town of Bethlehem, which is the place that God had chosen for this very special birth. The white dwarf was leading the way. The comet huffed and puffed, for he was very much out of shape. And the asteroid, true to his nature, was silent and still. And Tali, dark now and almost blind, followed behind, singing.
When God saw the four strange, dark friends laboring across the sky toward Bethlehem with their gift of light, he was exceedingly pleased. And as Tali and his friends marched on, a wonderful thing began to happen. As Tali passed the other stars, a little light from each one began to cling to his dark side, and soon he began to glow.
The Magi, by this time, had figured out the big event that was about to occur. They saw Tali begin to glow brighter, and they saw the direction in which he was headed. "We'd better get going," they said to themselves. "An important birth is due, and a very special leader will be delivered somewhere in the West."
By the time the friends reached Bethlehem, passing most of the stars on the way, Tali had become the brightest star anyone had ever seen. They didn't need to be wise to know a big event was happening. Even the shepherds on the hills, who had no education, knew something was up. In fact, Tali was so bright it was almost as light as day in the middle of the night, and that frightened the poor shepherds.
As the child was born, the comet, who was old and wise, said, "Now." And the dwarf shoved the asteroid with all of his might, and slowly the asteroid turned on his side, and the beautiful light streamed down around the manger where Jesus lay. And at that moment, the infant knew more about love than anyone ever had before, even though he was only a few minutes old.
"Well done," cried the comet.
"Thank you," replied the white dwarf.
"Isn't he beautiful?" cried the asteroid, who had forgotten all about his unattractive face.
The night was magic. Love light was in everyone's eyes. The angels sang, Tali shone brightly, and said, "This is Christmas, and now we can all go home."
And so the four friends made their way back to their home, Tali giving up a little light to each star on the way. But when he got home, he wasn't dark. He still had enough light that the friends could see each other. They were all smiling.
So if you are out on a hill late at night, away from the lights of the city, and if you go out there and you peer up at the dark part of the sky, you might be able to see Tali. But don't look at him with your eyes, or he will go away. Look with your heart, and then you will recognize him. And if you are very, very still, you just might, be able to hear him sing.